Hey guys, we're on a roll with pumpkin, so let's make some pumpkin rolls. I'm going to make a couple of them. One for my daughter-in-law. We'll see her up at my mom's in Omaha. And the other one for my mom. Anyway, of course, I've pureed a quart of my pumpkin. And so it's ready to go. The first thing I did was I got my jelly roll pan here. I greased the bottom and the sides, and I've got a piece of parchment paper in here. Then I'll be greasing this side of the parchment paper as well. Bowl, I've added the dry ingredients, and that is 3/4 cup flour, all-purpose, 1 teaspoon, and I use a rounded teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and of course it's my homemade, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and baking soda. In this bowl over here I have 3 eggs, and ooh, how'd you like that whistle? Okay, I'm gonna whisk all my dry ingredients together first. Then what I'm gonna do now is, after I've got that all mixed up, I'm going to come over here with my eggs. And okay, I'm beating my eggs until they're well beat. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar. Okay, I've poured the sugar in there, but now I'm just starting to get it mixed up really well. You want to make sure it's all blended in there. The sugar dissolved as best you can. And the next thing I'm going to add is 1 cup of my pureed pumpkin. The recipe calls for 2/3 a cup, but you know me, a little extra pumpkin will make it much better. Okay, now I'm going to mix in that pumpkin to the 3 eggs and the 1 cup of sugar. And when I get that all blended in, I will add it to my dry ingredients. Okay, now let's just mix this up really well. I've got my oven preheated to 375 degrees. I hope that these pumpkin rolls turn out, because to tell you the truth, they can be a little contrary to work with sometimes. Okay, I got that mixed up. Let's go on to the next step. Okay, let's pour the batter onto the prepared pan. And remember, it's got parchment paper that has been greased on both sides. Well, I'm loving the color of this. It's such a pretty golden. This one may turn out a flop. I didn't put parchment paper on the ends. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, spread it out evenly. Into a rectangular shape. And then I'm going to put it in the oven at 375. What I'm going to do is set my timer, because you bake it at 375 for 13 to 15 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 11 minutes. Because you want to take it out of the oven when it's kind of spongy on the top. This is a very thin cake and can be very fragile. Let's get ready for the next step. Okay, while the cake is in the oven baking, we need to get the frosting ready. It's yum cream cheese frosting. It's 1 cup of powdered sugar. Some call it icing sugar. 1 stick of butter. Oh, and before anybody says anything, yes, I wash my hands. I wash my hands a lot. Number one, remember, I'm a nurse, so we're kind of that way anyway. But I do wash my hands a lot, that to the point where they are so chapped right now that they burn. But that's the way I rock and roll. And then I have an 8-ounce package of cream cheese. I'll get the rest in there. Also, I'm going to be adding a teaspoon of vanilla. I just remembered I was gifted some homemade vanilla, and I don't know about you guys, but anytime I get something special, I tend not to use it because it's so special. But I've been trying to make sure I use this stuff, and I don't typically measure, but I will measure this valuable homemade vanilla. So I'm going to lock my mixer in place, and you don't want to listen to that. So I'll get it all mixed up and then I'll be back. Another thing we need to do when the cake is baking is I use a tea towel. Some people use parchment paper. I prefer the towel. It just works for me. And I'm a tightwad, guys. Parchment paper costs money. I can use my towels over and over and over. Yes, I wash them very well. I wash them in hot, soapy bleach water. So, but anyway, this is how I'm going to put it on. Is you really want to be very generous with the powdered sugar. So I'm going to sprinkle this powdered sugar on there. And my 11-minute timer just went off, so I'm going to go over and check the cake. I added 2 more minutes to it, so this ought to be just about right. By the time I have this put on here, everything ought to be tip-top and ready to go. Alright, I think I've got ample powdered sugar on here, and then we'll come back. See what's next. Alright guys, the cake is done. Now the trick is to see if we can flop it over on the powdered sugar and make a big powdered sugar cloud. Looks like I did it. Then we'll gently take this off so we don't tear the cake. And then the next thing you do is roll the cake up. And the idea here is that you want it to, while it's warm, I don't know, I've heard it called memory, to give it memory, but it's so that when it gets cooled off, it will retain that round shape. Then I'm going to set it on a wire rack and let it cool. You got to let it cool down a little bit before you put the frosting in. I've heard so many different times that I'll just do it whenever I feel like it. So we'll be back to put the frosting in a bit. Okay guys, while I was letting this one cool, I made a second one. And it's sitting over there cooling. So we're going to unroll this. It's cracked. Oh. And you know why I think it cracked? I forgot to bang the pan on the counter to get the bubbles out. So, dadgummit. Well, I guess best thing I can say to that is it'll still taste the same, right? So, what you do next is spread this good old cream cheese frosting. And rather than make you sit there and watch me spread this, I'm going to go ahead and finish putting it on, and then I'll come right back. Okay, I've got it the cream cheese frosting put on. I don't know. Do you suppose it'll work if I come back the other way? Probably not. So now I'm going to very carefully roll this up. I don't know, it's got that big crack in there. Looks like I didn't put enough powdered sugar in that section. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it, you set it with the seam side down, guys. This side here, that way. My ends don't look too bad, so I may not, typically what I do is kind of trim just a little off each end to make it look prettier. But they don't look too bad. So, let me go wash my finished product. I'll probably sprinkle some more powdered sugar on it in a little bit. But I did look at my ends and they didn't look real good, so I cut them. And like I said, I might put a little more powdered sugar on there. I'm going to wrap it up tight and it'll be ready to go with us tomorrow morning when we head up to Omaha. I hope you all have a blessed Thanksgiving and the greatest of the holidays with your family. Thanks for watching, and I certainly appreciate all of you.